Assalamu alaikum viewers. Dear students, I am Dr. Faisal Masood. I am working as Associate Professor at King Edward Medical University. Today the topic of our presentation is cerebral palsy, the concepts and current views. And never ever uh, lose the chance to motivate yourself. The today topic is cerebral palsy. It is also known as Little's disease and it was described in 1860 by Sir John Little. It was an English surgeon. Cerebral means cerebrum, affected part of the brain, and palsy means para beyond, and lysis means loosening. It is lack of muscle control. So it is a static encephalopathy, means brain injury that is non-progressive, leading to posture and movement disorder. It has variable etiologies and associated with epilepsy, speech problem, vision compromise, and cognitive dysfunction. So definition, it is a non-progressive disease of the central nervous system secondary to perinatal insult resulting in varying degrees of motor milestone delay dysfunction. Incidence is 2 to 5% per thousand child. It is non-curable lifelong condition. Damage does not reverse, but it does not worsen. May be congenital or acquired. So it is an insult to the injury to the brain, and the deficit depends upon which part of the brain. So extent of the damage and area of the brain damage. Each type involves the way a person moves. It could be pyramidal, extrapyramidal, or mixed spectrals. So pyramidal leads to spastic type of cerebral palsy. Extrapyramidal leads to athetide and ataxic, and mixed is both spastic and athetide. So here it is well clear that spastic results in tense contracted muscles involving the cerebrum. Ataxic is when cerebellum is involved, resulting in posture and frequent falls and stumbles. Athetide when the basal ganglia are involved, unconstant, uncontrolled motion of the limbs. Rigidity, right, tight muscle that resist effort to make them move. Tremors are frequent, uncontrolled, shaking movements. The cerebral palsy, 70% of cases are due to the prenatal insult resulting from infection, anoxia, toxic insult, and viral exposure. Natal 5 to 10%, which is around the birth, anoxia, and a delayed cry. Postnasal trauma, infection, toxic, and physiological jaundice. Types of spasticity can be evident as monoplegia, one limb involvement, biplegia or diplegia, or it could be three limbs involvement resulting in triplegia, or all the four limbs, quadriplegia, and if the trunk is also involved, it is called pentaplegia. The degree of severity, 20% of the cases are mild, they do not require any kind of assistance, and they are self-sufficient. Moderate, 50% of the cases, they do require some kind of help for their assistance, and severe, totally incapacitated and bedridden or wheelchair bound. You must remember A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, which is well evident on this picture regarding the symptoms of cerebral palsy, which is the posture and balance problem, loss of control or coordination, abnormal tone, abnormal strength, abnormal reflexes, persistent motor delay, cognitive deficit, and associated handicapness. So head to toe, anything, any part of the body can be involved. The cerebral palsy is generally the problem with cerebral palsy is spasticity, muscular weakness, increased muscle reflexes. There is clonus, there are seizures, articulation and swelling difficulty, resulting in recurrent reflux and recurrent chest infection, visual compromise. There could be deformities in the angular or rotational deformities. There could be hip dislocation or joint dislocations. There could be spinal deformities in the form of kyphoscoliosis. There could be constipation and urinary tract infections. The early signs are stiff or floppy posture, excessive lethargy or irritability, poor head control, weak sucking, and weak cry. You can see there's always delayed milestones. The maroon are the CP child, and the blue is the normal child. Behavioral symptoms, poor ability to concentrate in their studies and day-to-day activities, unusual tenseness and irritability resulting in poor tolerance. There are other problems, hearing and visual problems, sensory integration problems, failure to thrive, feeding problems, behavioral or emotional difficulties, communication disorders, bladder and bowel problems resulting in constipation, incontinence, gastroesophageal reflux resulting in upper respiratory tract infections, skeletal deformities, and mental retardations and seizures and epilepsy can be evident in later stages. Classification is, as we have seen, the diplegia, hemiplegia, tetra, and pentaplegia, quadriplegia. Type of motor dysfunction can be spastic, most common, 65%. ataxic 5%, mixed 12%, athetotic 10%, and hypotonic is only 1%, the rarest form. The spastic diplegia is the most common presentation, and we can see there's multiple hip flexion contracture, knee flexion contracture, and equinus at the ankle. The second is the spastic hemiplegia. 30% of all CP child, they have one-sided affected upper limb is more commonly affected than the lower limb. 50% mentally retarded and 33% have seizures. You can see the one side or half of the body is normal and one half of the body is having abnormal posture, well evident by these two pictures. The spastic quadriplegia, generally these kind of children, they are wheelchair bound, they have all four limbs involvement and involvement of the trunk, they have poor trunk control, poor neck control, mentally retardation, they have, always have seizures, and 80% they are non-walkers and they remain bed bound. You can start your diagnosis by physical evaluation, by interviewing the child and family, MRI, CT, and EEG, laboratory and radiological workup to see the joint conditions. Assessment tools are Peabody, development, motor skills, and Denver test 2. The assessment is based on history taking, physical examination, and physiotherapists must be well aware of all these examinations. Risk factor assessment, psychosocial factor assessment, and family response and adaptation should be taken into account. Child's health history, previously admitted to hospital for how many times, corrective surgery done or not, other complications, respiratory problem, motor function, presence of fever, feeding and weight loss, and any changes in physical state, cognitive level, and medical regime being offered. You can remember all this by posture. P for posturing and poor muscle control, O for oropharyngeal problems, S for strabismus squint, P for tone, E for evolutional maldevelopment such as joint dislocations, and R for reflexes. There is always hyperreflexia. Clinical assessment. The goal of physical assessment: determine the muscle strength and selective control, evaluate muscle tone and determine type, evaluate degree of deformity and linear and rotational deformities. You must not take into account the balance, equilibrium, and standing and walking posture disabilities. Clinical assessment of flexors is done by Thomas test, in which is evident by the picture, and you can exclude the involvement of the knee by modified Thomas test, which is you take the child to the edge of the table and see whether this hip deformity is because of the knee or because of the hip. This is the Starley test, evaluating the tightness of the iliopsoas, and the hip flexion contracture can be because of the rectus tightness, which can you exclude by Ellie's rectus prone test. You will ask the child to lie prone and you check rectus tightness. Hip adductors, the limitation of hip abduction can be because of the hip adductor tightness or because of the medial hamstring tightness. If the hip abduction is not facilitated by either knee flexion or extension, it is the tightness of the hip adductors. If it is improved by flexing the knee, it is the medial hamstrings which are tight, and you must focus on them. The hamstring tightness can also be evaluated by popliteal angle. Silver Skyhold test is when you evaluate the equinus in knee extension and then you flex the knee. If the equinus improves, it is the gastrocnemius, and if the equinus does not improve, it is the soleus, which is the tight. Clinical assessment of the rotational profile, the walking child, femoral rotation, and tibial anteversion should be taken into account. A multidisciplinary team comprising of a neurodevelopmental pediatrician, physiotherapist, occupational therapist, clinical psychologist, speech pathologist, orthopedic surgeon, otolaryngologist, ophthalmologist, teacher, play therapist, and social worker. And do not forget to take into account the parents. Neurological and psychiatric tools, occupational and physical therapy, speech and adaptive equipment, surgery, and rhizotomies, along with medical equipment.